Hello, this is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about something that's horrific. There was a lieutenant EMT who got stabbed to death in broad daylight in New York, and I'm not going to show you the video. It was horrific watching the video. I know I had talked about it, wrote a status this morning on Facebook, and some other people went and found the video. I think if I showed the video, it might get taken down. You can't see blood from the distance, but I mean, it was a stabbing, and the country is, I don't know. I called a pastor friend of mine today, and they're like, "How are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm stressed. I'm grieved." And so I particularly had called to about Prop 3 to just alert them about that stuff. But there's just so much stuff going on in the country that's so awful. And I was praying today. I'm like, Lord, I know you're in control, but things are in your hands. And there's some wild stuff going on today. So we'll be talking about that and some other crazy crime stuff that's been going on in the country. Man, people need to wake up and just put things aside for red and blue and just vote. Like, you know what, we need to change. We need something radical, and let's try to do something different. Because Gavin Newsom tried to say, like, oh, actually a lot of these red states have violent crime. I'm like, look at their big cities and tell me who's in charge. Is it red or blue? Democrats. You got George Soros, who openly is funding people who are soft on crime to be prosecutors and so on, because they want the criminal justice reform. It just means soft on crime, and it's ruining certain areas, and it's just spilling out and going all over the place. And people are not safe. The voters need to wake up and have a change. Like, I saw that video, and I was sad, I was angry, and I'm just like, people just need to admit they need someone else like Rudy Giuliani to come into New York. That they need somebody like that. That's what they need. And Eric Adams, from what I've seen, he doesn't seem that much better than de Blasio. No, but de Blasio's pretty awful, but the sort of things, the fights that he wants to engage in, stop like trying to troll Ron DeSantis or something. Just go do your job and clean up the crime in New York. You know, you guys know that I write books and stuff, and I travel, go different places, and I'm just like, I would go, and obviously I was younger when I would do traveling. I would go with my sister, and we just drive around all over the place. We drove all the way to Arizona for a book festival once. Like, we go all over the place. And I'm just like, so many of these places are unsafe. We were talking about going to New York because the last Comic-Con we were at in Novi, some people were saying how good of a show it is in New York. And that's in Hell's Kitchen. If you're a comic book fan or something, that's where Daredevil fights, in Hell's Kitchen, the Japa Center, right, in there. And so we're like, maybe we should go there. And then I'm just like, man, the crime is so bad now. And I'm like, they're like attacking people in broad daylight. And she's like, broad daylight? I said broad daylight. And that was just physical attacking, and which was awful. But and And I mean brutal attacking, but stabbed in broad daylight, stabbed to death, to not just stabbed to death. Um, there's been radical videos there. There's radical videos of Philly, just all over the place. People need to wake up and vote better. Because a lot of people, they'll just go out and move in different places, and then they'll bring their dumb ideology with them. And then a lot of people will move into a place, and that becomes a new metropolitan area, and that becomes blue because they took all their dumb ideas there and didn't learn the lesson. Make better choices. It's so crazy. So yeah, we'll be talking about that tragic story. Also, Nancy Pelosi said something racist. We talked yesterday about Democrat voters who were, okay, apparently with profiling and chasing down black men with like Fetterman did some years ago, and people were justifying it. Like, well, he did what he had to do, or in certain circumstances, blah blah blah, etc. They'll defend their guy. But Nancy Pelosi said something that was pretty suspect about immigration and why we need immigrants to come and pick the fields. It's just suspect. So we'll be looking at that. It reminded me of something that Kelly Osbourne said. So if you didn't see it, I'll play a blip of that clip as well. Also, I just saw this. It just made the roster. So CHOP, a gender clinic, who I guess is like supported by Secretary Levine, our assistant health secretary. Apparently they get referrals from foster care and homeless shelters. It's amazing all the things that these people are willing to do to people who are vulnerable and don't have parental protection. It's just they just want to prey on the kids. It's so crazy. But we're living in a wicked world, a fallen world, and I like to be more optimistic. Like, I know I give you guys kind of bad news all the time, but the craziness of the world. Um, I guess it's just really, I feel such pressure to in this election season to do my best to change some things coming, especially since it's hitting so close to home. Um, with like the Michigan proposal. And I feel the heaviness today. I feel the heaviness today. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktunes.com, check out different content that we have on the website, check out different merchandise that we have on the website. If you see something that you like, please go ahead and treat yourself, and also that supports us. So go ahead and pick up something like the Pro-Choice Men Are Sus. And man, I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday, but I saw a video of Pete Buttigieg. Pete was circulating around on a pro-choice TikTok page, and they're like, "Oh, could we clone him?" They just loved his answer so much about abortion, and it was during a town hall, and Chris Wallace was pushing back on him about some stuff, and basically Pete's thing, he won't say that abortion is bad up to 9 months. He just believes it's a woman's choice, and when he's pressed about that, he'll just say, women who have these late term abortions, they've bought cribs, there's all these things that have happened and they wanted that baby. And there are women who have tragic late term miscarriages. There are women who find out that their child um, isn't going to be compatible with life very late for whatever reason. But most people who have abortions late term have them for the same reason that women might have them early. And that's just the truth. And there's been studies on that. I know people who've had like later term abortions, not like super, super late, but like late in the second trimester. And just really biding their time, didn't know if they wanted to go through with it or not. So going that route was just crazy. But the thing that really bothers me about men like him and Beto Francis, Beto O'Rourke, in Texas, and other guys like that, I guess now Joe Biden and other folks who say it's just a woman's choice. It's just a cop out, because you're clearly going to vote for legislation surrounding this issue, sign bills regarding this legislation. So don't tell me that it's all about the woman's choice when you clearly are going to have a say in the matter. Like, it doesn't. It's such a wild cop out, and I also hate it because, is that not a man's progeny? Like, so people should have a say regardless. This is a great human rights violation, and we can have meaningful debates about, because there is a conflict of rights there. There is. So we have meaningful debate, but just being like, oh, it's a woman's choice. I can't live life like Gretchen Governor Whitmer just tweeted out something. I guess the other day they had a bunch of women come to maybe it was even today, to the Michigan House or Senate or something, to the Capitol, and to talk about, share their abortion studies and their stories. She said, it was yesterday. Yesterday we got a lot done for Michiganders, but something happened in the House and Senate that I wanted you to see. Yesterday, members went to the floor to share the stories of women who chose abortion care in Michigan, a right I'm fighting like bleep to protect, which she cares about this issue more than every other issue. More than every other issue, I swear. More than the roads, more than your kids and education. This, she cares. She doesn't. Forward all those folks, they can take jobs elsewhere. Screw you. She cares about there being more dead babies. That's what she cares about, like, blatantly. And so I retweeted what she said, and I said, can you show us what happened to the sons and daughters after the abortion? I cannot live life pretending like there wasn't a life taken. I can't do that. I know that's what they want to do. I can't do that. I can't have a discussion that ignores that. It's not, you're not being honest. Maybe you don't value that life. That's subjective. I grant you that. I grant you that. It's subjective. But that's why I think we need to affirm life as soon as possible, because if you're an evil person, I don't want you being able to choose when my life has value. Because people did it all the time throughout history, and it can get pretty darn murky. It was pretty darn murky for my ancestors when they were enslaved. It was pretty darn murky when people threw slaves over the Zong ship because they were no better than cargo, no better than wood. So, sorry, I just can't live life like that. This woman's disgusting to me. I can't stand her. So anyway, we got the pro-choice men are sus shirts available. And I don't like when men try to scapegoat. I don't. Also got the Roe Casey aborted stuff, Life Wins. Got that stuff available. And I'll show you we're still in pumpkin spice season, so you can pick up the spice pumpkin season stuff. If you like what I do here at blacktnews.com, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, whether it's a small gift, a big gift. Like, I saw some small gifts the other day. I saw some larger ones last week. Like, I very much appreciate it. It costs to stream my show. It costs to build the website, filters when I do a fancy video, transportation, all that stuff. There's a cost associated. So if you would like to help with that overhead, I very much appreciate you being a part of it. So if you can't do that, I appreciate you guys watching and sharing and liking and commenting, buying the occasional merchandise and so on. And I really do appreciate you guys. Make sure you're following across all the social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. The link should be in the description if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube. I do also want to thank Brian and Michigan Pat, because I'm in their studio. And if I say something today that triggers you, nobody cares. It does not work like that. But I do really appreciate how they want to uplift conservative voices and get some work done. They're doing a lot in the state. Okay, so I want to tackle Nancy Pelosi first. It's just remarkable. I don't have a meme for you guys, but maybe this is meme enough.
The fact is that we have a responsibility to secure our border. We also have a responsibility to recognize the importance of newcomers to our nation. Right now, the best thing that we can do for our economy is to have comprehensive immigration reform. We have a shortage of workers in our country, and you see even in Florida, some of the farmers and the growers saying, why are you shipping these immigrants up north? We need them to pick the crops down here. But that doesn't mean that we don't recognize our moral responsibility as well. When the president, the former, occasional occupant of the White House.
So we need and they said, why are you shipping them up north? I'm assuming she means illegal aliens or legal immigrants. Bro, it's like, we need our low wage slaves. Why are you sending him upwards? To just admit that, we know that is true. There are people who want them to work low wages under the table. That's not a secret that there's people out there, even on the right, who are secretly okay with, because they want the cheap labor. It's totally a thing. It's totally a thing. Does it make it right? It's totally a thing. To just be there as the speaker and be like, yeah, we need these people to pick our cotton and corn and whatever it is. To pick our crops. It just reminded me of this time Kelly Osbourne was on The View talking about Donald Trump and immigration.
If you kick every Latino out of this country, then who is going to be cleaning your toilet, Donald Trump?
Oh, that's no.
In the sense that,
no.
You know what I mean? When I'm saying
there's more jobs to be
in LA, they always
but
they
Latinos are not only the only people.
I didn't mean it like that. Come on. No, I would never mean it like that.
Okay.
I'm not part of this argument.
The confidence. She went in with such confidence. Who's gonna clean your toilets? And then everyone's like, whoa there. And she seems so confident that I guess they'd all go along with it, and then she tried to walk that back, clean that up a little bit. But yeah, that's what it's giving me, those kind of vibes. There is and it's funny that she talks about how there is a shortage of laborers. Yeah, that's true. But why is that? Now, there's a lot of people who don't want to do unfun jobs. That's true. But they did literally pay people to not work. That was a thing. That was a big thing that would happen during the pandemic. And the Republicans warned, if you pay people more money to stay home than to go to work, while you're all like, it's dangerous to go to work, you're non-essential, blah, blah, blah. People are going to take the option to not go to work. And then when the Republicans pointed this out, the Democrats are like, how dare you say that about Americans, that they're lazy, imply that, blah, blah, blah. And it's not a matter of Americans being lazy, which a lot are. And man, if you hear some people talk about some people, the workforce nowadays, I'm sure people would go. I know some people have gone on some rants who are in management who are just like, there's just not a lot of quality folks out there in the world willing to do a lot of work today, especially a young generation, just to be frank. But and by the way, they condition people to continuously feel entitled to just have more and more and more and more. The offer's not good for me to go back yet. And then there's people who've been conditioned to just kind of feel like, well, I'll just live on this little amount here and I don't need to go get a job or something. People have been really, really conditioned to not go to work. But the Republicans, it's not so much that they were like, people are lazy. It's that these people are smart. Why, if you could get paid to stay home, a lot of people are like, why wouldn't I just stay home? Work on a couple of passions, finish writing that book, take care of my kids, homeschool them. So, help them with the virtual thing. Why? So they just warn folks like this is going to cause a bad thing to happen. And people who desperately needed workers were like, it's very hard to get workers right now. And then when they'd mention that, people would be like, well, maybe you need to charge more. You need to pay more. They can pay whatever the market value is. They're not going to just go bankrupt trying to appease you. They have to pay what they can pay. They do have to pay something that's going to attract you, make you want to work there. Sure, but they can't pay you so much that they go out of business. There's like a delicate thing going on. But when you have the government to get involved, they're always bad at everything, and they just made things really, really, really worse. So when Nancy Pelosi talks about how there is a shortage of laborers, that's true. Not because there's just not people out there, just a lot of people don't want to work. Now people started going back to work and stuff when some of those benefits went away, sure. But there's still plenty of people who like I said, they condition people to not go to work. And there's like, when you're religious, God created man. He's like, okay, I'm gonna give you a job. You're gonna name the animals, blah blah blah, etc. I'm gonna give you a task, a purpose. I'm gonna give you companionship because it's not good for you to be alone. What do we do during the pandemic? We took away people's purpose. We took away their jobs. We destroyed businesses. We did all that stuff. And we isolated people. People died alone in the nursing homes. People died alone in the hospitals without their loved ones, or they would deteriorate in the nursing homes and so on. We couldn't see our friends and family. Kids couldn't play with friends. I saw a video of a cop coming over somebody's house, mad because the neighbors played with each other, and it was during a pandemic. Just crazy stuff. Absolutely bonkers, crazy stuff. So I'm not surprised by Nancy Pelosi's comment, because she'll be saying some out-of-pocket stuff. But I guess it just rings true. It's on brand for Democrats. The people who are so uplifting of the other, but they're not even low-key racist. They're just like, but it's so embedded in who they are. Like, why would you question it? Why would you question it? So some funny stuff there. Next, I want to talk about this video from with CHOP Gender Clinic co-founder Nadia Downshin. So she's speaking also with Secretary Levine, who's our assistant health secretary, who is a diversity hire. I don't think it's controversial to say that. Levine is a man who believes that he is a woman. But the reason why he shouldn't have the job is because he did a crap job in his state during the pandemic, and he just failed upwards because it's a diversity hire, just to be frank. So this is a bit alarming.
The children that are referred to the clinic, are those a combination of self-referrals? Are those referrals made from those individual children's pediatricians? Is it how do those folks find their way to your door?
But yeah, we're really getting referrals from a variety of resources. We're also getting a lot more referrals from other institutions and other youth-serving professionals, so who are working with youth in other capacities, sometimes from within the foster care system or the mental health system, through homeless shelters for youth who are in need of support.
What can you do for a patient who doesn't have parental support? Well, if they're under 18 and they're not an emancipated minor, meaning if they're under 18 and they are on the street or they're completely emancipated from their parents, then you can do treatment. But if you have most, patients under 18, I cannot prescribe hormones without their parents' consent. However, once they become 18, I can. So anybody 18 and older, they give their own medical consent. Now, insurance coverage is another issue. So if the insurance is through your parents, then you're going to have a discussion with them. But I do not need parental consent for anyone 18 or older. Under 17, unless they're completely emancipated, you do. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're an emancipated minor, I don't need consent to get that stuff. Getting referrals from like mental health clinics and foster care places, and it's just these people are so predatory on kids, and there's an epidemic of the transgender ideology. Abigail Schreier talks a lot about in her, well, that is a thesis of her book, Irreversible Damage. That there are obviously people out in the world who are transgender, who have gender dysphoria rather. But there are people who have other sort of issues, whether it's internal misogyny, internal homophobia. Uh, they're bipolar. They have other sort of things going on, and they think that they're transgender. They see it on Tumblr, they see it on TikTok and all these other places, and they decide that they don't want to be a woman or don't want to be a man, and they transition. And there are people who deeply, deeply, deeply come to regret it. Um, and then they realize they had other issues that just weren't properly diagnosed. So, if you're not familiar with Abigail Schreier, I've talked about her quite a bit. I would go ahead and pick up her book, or go just. She did an interview with Joe Rogan that was pretty fascinating some time ago. I'd go check out her stuff, but there's some people who question about the social contagion. I think she breaks it down pretty well in the Lisa Littman study as why there is a social contagion, but we're seeing an epidemic a lot with young women, which women share their pain. And there will be like clusters of women who get together, and they like used to would cut themselves or do other stuff like that. Like, this is the self-harm. This is women sharing their pain. And I've mentioned this several times, but it still strikes me. There was one video I saw on TikTok, and it was a group of girls together, and one of them, they were out somewhere, and one announced like, "I'm a boy," and they just like started jumping up and down and cheering. And I'm like, what? Why is that something to be so excited about? Like, talk about misogyny. Talk about misogyny. So these people prey on kids, and I think it's not that they don't think that kids should be prescribed puberty blockers, because people get it with parental consent. But it's just the parents are in the way at that point in time. Now, there have been parents who have lost custody of their children, and so the kids could be emancipated or whatever, and start to make that transition. Abigail Martinez, I've mentioned her quite a bit, but she lost custody of her daughter because people got in her head and told her daughter, like, she may be buying you clothes or letting you socially transition, but she won't do enough. And so she decided to get emancipated, and the mother really couldn't have contact with her daughter. And if it was, she had to have like supervised contact. And they're like, don't talk about religion. Don't, she's very fragile right now. You gotta be very careful what you talk about, or we're going to end your session if you mention like anything about God or anything like that. It was pretty radical. But the story ended up with her daughter stepping in front of a train and killing herself. That's how that story ended. And then there's other people who've lost their custody of their children due to the gender ideology. especially if they have some kind of ex who's into it. There's a woman out in Jeanette Cooper out in Illinois, and her daughter, she had her daughter like 6 out of 7 days, and her child went for a visitation day with her father and didn't come back. And so the father claimed that the child felt unsafe or whatever because she didn't accept her identity. And so she's a radical feminist Democrat, and she's just like won't accept that there's something wrong with her daughter's body. You just, you can identify who I could think her like whole thing was like you can believe what you want, but I'm not accepting that your body is somehow wrong. And but the father, the ex, he got with some kind of psychoanalyst therapist, and so Jeanette believes that she's the one who got into her daughter's head, and so she hasn't seen her daughter really. She writes her letters, and she doesn't live that far away, but she can't see her daughter, and she said she's in hell. So I don't want so many wrong people to become judges and legislators and attorney generals and um, assistant secretaries of health and so on, and get into these positions of power where they feel like, well, that child has autonomy and they should be able to decide whether or not they're going to take puberty blockers, even though kids eat Tide Pods and apparently chicken cooked in NyQuil. Did you guys hear about that? There's a social media challenge of cooking chicken in NyQuil. And I was just like, dear God. But anyway, we know that kids are impulsive and they irrational and they make not good decisions, you know, and the parents are, you do trust the parents generally to protect them. There are parents who make the wrong decisions. Chloe Cole's parents made the wrong decision, but they were under like emotional duress. They were told, hey, transition your child. It's better to have a live son than a dead daughter. And they emotionally blackmail these people. So I would feel more comfortable if these people were like, no, we shouldn't be doing gender affirming surgeries and giving these kids puberty blockers, because even if you inform them of what's going on, um, you can't really know how you'll feel about all this stuff. I saw Bethany something. She's has a big following on Twitter, but I can't think of her last name. But she was talking about how when she was a kid, she got like some piercings or something, like in her belly, and like people were telling her when she's a young woman, like, this isn't gonna look good. You're not gonna like this when you're like pregnant years later, and it's not gonna look good. And she's just like, I'm never gonna have kids. And she totally had kids, and she's like, and they were right. It doesn't look good. But people are so YOLO, fear of missing out. You only live once, and that mentality that they don't think about years later down the line and stuff. It's always about the now, now, now. Like another thing about like Gretchen Whitmer and these people were like, these women need the abortion care. They need the abortion care. And they'll mention things like the Turnaway study, but the Turnaway study actually also states that women who are turned away from abortion, 96% of them, I think it's 96, either 94 or 96, but I think it's 96% of them are glad that they didn't have the abortion. And, that's not something that made the headlines, all over the place like other stuff did. It's in the book. I think like there was like maybe one like medical like journal or something that ended up like looking into that and mentioned that, but that's not advertised. People don't want to advertise. And then there was a big drop like in the first week, because the Turnaway study like observes like 5 years. But within like the first week of being turned away, like a third of people were like glad that they didn't have the abortion. And then the regret just like subsided over the years. And by the time you got to year 5, like only 4% like regretted not having the abortion. I'm sorry. So if women could just be denied access for a bit, You're telling me that they would come to love and appreciate the lives with their children, or that they chose to give them up for adoption or whatever? So isn't it worthwhile to just pump the brakes on it? Because we are talking about taking a human life, you know? And when it comes to these kids and doing this irreparable damage to their bodies, is it not worth it to wait some time to really see if they can live their lives with perhaps if the dysphoria is real, or if there's other causes, and if even if they have the dysphoria, is really the best thing to have the physical changes to go through all that? Because if gender is a social construct, society's already deemed that sex and biology are meaningfully intertwined. And we know that because even people who want to transition will get the hormones and then they'll get the surgery. So they're trying to chase a reality that's rooted in biology. That's what they're chasing. They're chasing a pot of a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that they'll never get to reach. They're trying their darndest, but they'll never quite get there. But if it's all about how you identify and it's in your mind, then you wouldn't need that affirmation when you look in the mirror. You wouldn't need that affirmation for everyone calling you she, her, whatever your pronouns are. And you wouldn't need to have these hate speech laws and etc. and have everyone bow to your whims. You wouldn't be so sensitive, or insecure is a better word, about your ideology to the point where you want to ban anything that's not affirmation related, that you don't want any sort of conversion therapy, which is just like, hey, you're not really a girl, so let's try to unwind you and help you live your life as a boy. Like anything like that, you're like, no, we got to outlaw that stuff. Obama tried it. Obama, Biden, they tried it. I'm sure they'll, put their hand in it again. And in Canada, they've outlawed any kind of conversion therapy, to help people live with, whether it's related to sexual orientation or gender. But if you do it the other way, that's fine. Like if you turn somebody out or something and convince them they were whatever, that's fine according to the law. It's interesting that it doesn't work both ways. I guess it's not that interesting. They're just they tip their hand all the time. But there's just no protection for people nowadays for these kids because they're the prey. They are the prey. I was talking to my sister about this the other night, and I said I think there's a lot of political opportunities for the Democrats and folks here, and I think another aspect of the gender pronouns and all this stuff, it's also to see who goes along with it. Because if you're willing to look at someone, a man basically in a dress with some long hair, very masculine presenting, and then be like, yeah, she's a woman. If you're willing to do that, what else are you willing to just throw out the window for the heck of it, for social politeness or whatever you want to call it? What else are you willing to compromise on? So I'm like, I think they're sorting the sheep. I don't know. I didn't quite use that phrase, but it was sheep related. So I think they're trying to sort out who's a sheep and who's not. And there's plenty of people who don't really feel like that is a woman, but they're willing to concede on the language. So it's like, okay, well, there's the people who are like Matt Walsh and they're the terrible bigots and we need to shut them down in whatever way we can. And there's people who won't buy into it. But we're gonna keep our eyes on them, but they're compliant enough that we don't have to utterly destroy them. But maybe if they say the wrong thing, we can make them buckle with social pressure. So like Macy Gray was like, "You're not a man, you're not a man," and then social pressure came and like, well, woman's just a vibe. So if you're not a threat, then it's whatever. And then there's people who are just like, you know what, reality's all whatever you make it. and then they're just like, okay, that's the sheep that we need, and we got to keep our eyes on these other folks. And so she brought up Winter Soldier. The conversation made her think of the Winter Soldier, the second Captain America movie, when they had this algorithm, and they were the helicarriers are what we're gonna like try to. They were really Hydra was inside of Shield, the big terrorist organization, and they had this algorithm, and they were gonna take out people who they thought ultimately were gonna disturb their plans. People who were gonna rebel against their plans, and it wasn't just superheroes. It was like kids on soccer fields or whatever, whoever, like looking at different social media profiles or whatever, academic scores, whatnot, and determine like, okay, these people will be a threat to our agenda one day, so we're going to take them out now. And I feel like that's what a lot of politics are, and part of the gender ideology is part of that. They're trying, like it's a big social experiment. Now, of course, there's a lot of money involved when they do these surgeries. Like Planned Parenthood is backing Prop 3. They give hormones to people. Like sometimes it's covered and you can get it for free, but then it could be anywhere between like $150 to $300, I think, when I looked it up today. But then that's something people like repeatedly going and continuously getting. So people want you to be a lifetime customer with this stuff, and it rakes in a lot of cash. These are not people who just care about your welfare; they care about their bottom line. So there's that too, but and it's also it's a good way to shut down people they don't like. Like the Quality Act is obviously going to buck up against religious liberties, and they're hoping their side wins out over the religious liberty side. I mean, as soon as like gay marriage passed, I don't care how whatever you feel about it, but as soon as that passed, it led to some complications for people who didn't want to participate. People are like, no, we just want to love who we want to love. And it's like, but there's people who want to crush you under their boot, though, and make you comply and make you accept it and then comply. We just got to be real about it. Facts are the facts. Facts are the facts. Okay, last thing I want to mention, of course, this terrible, terrible story. Again, I'm not going to show you this video. You're going to have to look it up yourself. But there was an EMT who was slain in broad daylight. In broad daylight. I'm going to read their local ABC story. Astoria, Queens. Flags flew at half staff across New York on Friday to honor FDNY EMS Lieutenant Allison Russo Elling, a first responder on 9/11, killed in a brutal, unprovoked attack. The FDNY also draped purple and black bunting on the exterior of the EMS Station 49, where EMS Lieutenant Allison Russo Elling served in Queens. The black and purple bunting is already up outside Huntington Community First Aid Squad, where Lieutenant Russo Elling was also a member. She was to celebrate her 30th anniversary with the group in November. She was a mother hen of the station. Grieving colleagues said after bunting was raised outside EMS Station 49, they said she was always looking out for everybody. The deadly attack happened near the intersection of 20th Avenue and Steinway Street in Astoria around 2:15 on Thursday. 2:15. EMS Lieutenant Russo Elling was stabbed to death in a random attack while on duty and standing outside of FDNY EMS Station 49. Members of EMS serve only to help and save other people's lives. Acting Fire Commissioner Laura Kavanaugh said in a news conference today, to be attacked and killed in the course of helping others is both heartbreaking and enraging for our department in ways I cannot describe. She served the city for 25 years. She was a World Trade Center first responder. She was cited multiple times for her bravery and her life-saving work, and she was absolutely beloved on this job. I gotta say, if you want to watch the video, I don't know why you'd want to watch it, but it was awful. It was awful. The suspect was identified as Peter Zipolopoulos, 34, and he's charged with the murder and criminal possession of a weapon. Zipolopoulos had no prior arrests, no connection to the victim. Law enforcement says he does have a history of mental illness. Zipolopoulos fled after the attack and ran to 1980 and 41st Street and barricaded himself inside his third floor apartment. Members of the hostage negotiating team and emergency service unit talked to the suspect out of the building. Police walked him across the street. He had not a trace of emotion on his face. Neighbors describe him just that way as a loner. They would often see him walking expressionless around the block. That's crazy. And it was like a crazy random attack. And it was crazy. It was just constant. I know I mentioned it and some other people went to go watch it. It was horrific. And I've seen some stuff, I'm not very super squeamish. I mean there's people who watch like some pretty gritty stuff. I mean, I guess it's different when it's not real life. That was just horrific. The state of the world we're in today. And I've just not when I saw that today, it just hit me hard. Like screaming, yelling. So again, I was thinking about going to New York, I guess around this time, for a Comic-Con with my sister. And you guys know that I write. She does beautiful art. And some other people said it was a really good show. So we thought about going, and I told her, I said, the crime's really bad right now, and they're like doing it, attacking people in broad daylight. And she was just amazed. She's like, broad daylight? I said, yes. This is next level. This is next level. I don't know if I've been to Queens. I don't know. Not sure. I've been in New York though. I don't know if I made that borough or not. I don't know it fabulously well. But it's making people reconsider definitely a lot. If it's making me rethink my travel plans, I would question if people are rethinking where they live, because it's not like it's a cheap place to live anyway. But to have that sort of crime, and he did seem rather emotionless after he had done what he did. But there's just brutal attacks all over the country right now. It's just bad. And people need to consider voting differently. New York needs someone like a Rudy Giuliani. I don't care if you don't like Republicans. I don't care if you don't like Rudy. Like we're we're gonna head for some kind of like super tough on crime reckoning. I hope so. Like people talk about that age and Biden and how tough crime was. People like the pendulum is either going to swing or we're all going to just go into madness. And I don't know if we're like on the precipice of everyone being willing to accept madness. I know there's got to be more people out there like me who are watching that and they're just like, enough is enough. Now I don't live in New York, obviously. The crime is really bad here too. We got a pretty bad drug problem, human trafficking, kids stealing cars. And I mean kids, like 11, 12, 13-year-olds being arrested by police who are trying to steal like Hellcat cars. I don't even know what that is, but the kids are stealing it. The police are like, they think it's fun. Where are these where the parents at? Where's the home training? But we've promoted a world of wickedness for the past couple years. You didn't think like people wilding out in the streets with the BLM riots that and stealing people with an indignation as if they deserve to act that way wasn't going to ripple out and continue to create a world of chaos? All to what? What was it for? To get Donald Trump out of office? To get some people you don't like out? It's insane. It's insane how selfish people can be about obtaining some power and letting the whole world burn. But my suggestion to people in these big inner cities where there's lots of crime is to look at who is in charge, who are your DAs, who are your prosecutors, who's your police chiefs and all these folks, who's your attorney general, and see what you can do to make some change. Who's holding up the problem? Who's the problem? Find out and get rid of them. Stop just swiping right or left or whatever. Make the change. If you care about your kids. If you care about your families. If you care about your safety. I was out with a friend last night. It was late. We were out in the parking lot. And then someone was pulling up. And we are just like, oh, shoot. You know, it's a crazy world. And strap up, defend yourself. But I don't know how, if you watch that stabbing attack, I don't know how she could have really, it was quick and brutal and psychotic. Whew, I'm sorry I don't have a funny show for you guys today, but that's the end. Hopefully Monday will bring lighter tidings. Thank you guys for watching and being with me all week. Please consider going to blacktnews.com, leaving a donation there if you can help with the overhead. I very much appreciate it. Make sure you're following me across my different social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all that stuff. All my handles are at Black Tea News, with the exception of Twitter. That one's at True Black Tea, and it's black like the color, tea like the drink. Again, thank you to Brian Mission Pack. I always enjoy being in the studio. And make sure that you guys are keeping up to date. And go to the website, drop in your email. Again, I will be at, I don't think I mentioned this today, but I'm going to be at Motor City Comic Con on in October. So if you like what I do here and you want to see me, you can find me at there, and I'll be in Artist Alley, and I got plenty of books that I've written. You guys, if you can't make it, you can just go to blacktnews.com and hit the merchandise button, and you'll see a banner that'll take you to my book. So you can just search my name on Amazon. You'll be able to find my work. I got plenty of stuff you guys can check out. Most of it is fiction. I write stories about inhuman queens and demon hunters and vampires and werewolves and like superpowered people in history and all kinds of stuff that you guys can check out. It's really a passion of mine to write. I hope after the election season I can just type and write some stuff. And I have been writing like crazy with my abortion book. And that's near and dear to me, but I really want to write something fun. Really want to write something fun. Anyway, God bless you guys, and I will see you next week.